welcome to the Chirp YouTube channel. I am Christy. I am your friendly online speech-language pathologist and specialist in children's communication development, including behavior, because behavior is a type of communication. Today, we are in the fourth section of the third tier in our pyramid model series. We're getting so close to the end of this series, which I'm excited about because that means that a new series will be coming that will be equally helpful. The purpose of the pyramid series, here's the pyramid, is to prevent challenging behavior. And anyone who's in this field or who has a family member who has some sort of developmental delay or disorder understands what it means to prevent some of those behaviors that are so challenging to us and to the person that we care about. Our child, our student, whoever it may be that we care about who's having difficulties with behavior. We want to prevent as many of these behaviors as possible. And the environment, our training, our teaching patterns, and the way that we interact with kids can definitely prevent a lot of these behaviors. In this tier, this section of our discussion, we're talking about targeted social emotional supports. By targeted, we mean we're looking at the child, we're finding out where the deficits are, where are the skills that the child is missing. I have a video on that right up there. And of course, you can find the whole pyramid model playlist right there, in case you want to start at the very beginning. But these videos should be helpful in any order, so don't be worried about that. As far as social emotional supports, we're talking about ways to help a child understand his own emotions and ways to help him interact better with other people. These basic foundational skills we call basic and foundational, but really they're not, because they're quite difficult. We adults still have trouble with this in many ways. So teaching them to kids can be challenging. But my teaching these to many children is helping me manage my own self better also. So it benefits everyone. Today we're going to talk about how to teach these social emotional skills that our kids may be missing through play. In this section of our series, I have been talking about how to deal with 4 challenging behaviors specifically in each video, because these behaviors are quite common, and if we can teach how kids might avoid these behaviors, then we can substitute other behaviors in their place, and we will be well prepared for any sort of behaviors that might come. The behaviors I've been thinking about when creating these videos are crying, hitting, running away, also known as elopement, and making fun of other people. These all are examples of behaviors that come about because a child does not have appropriate social emotional skills. In this video, I'm going to focus on play, how we can teach towards these specific things in play. And I'm going to start with 5 things we need to keep in mind. The first one is we need to follow the child's interest. What interests your child? Marble run? Gears? Space? Whatever it is, we can play and we can teach on that topic in that area. Today, we're going to pretend that my play partner is interested in cars. We try to have a person in the car in all vehicles whenever possible, specifically with children on the autism spectrum, because these are the children who have more difficulty with social interactions and with human beings. They prefer animals, but even more so they prefer vehicles, cars, trains, airplanes, spaceships. There doesn't have to be a pilot. That doesn't matter. In this case, we're going to try to put a human in there, but if the child will not allow a human and gets too ramped up and anxious, then fine, we'll just drive the car. But this is not going to be a car that just drives. wait until you find out what's going to happen. Clearly, I have a vintage Fisher-Price car here and vintage Fisher-Price people. They're so cute. This one is in a uniform for a reason. This is a police officer. Okay, moving on. My child wants to be left alone to line up cars side by side in long snakes across the living room. I, however, have an alternate plan. My plan involves multiple secret purposes. I want to work on increasing frustration tolerance. Who among us does not need to increase our tolerance for frustration? We all freak out far too easily, kids included. I also want to work on teaching self-advocacy skills. For example, the child being able to say, "Stop it," or "I need a break." I want to work on building a shared imaginary world where we pretend to be people, or we pretend that these vehicles are talking to each other. That is very useful for children and their communication development. I want to have fun with this child because I like her and because I want her to realize that human interaction is fun and exciting. And maybe my most important in this realm when we're talking about teaching targeted social emotional skills is that I want to model novel problem solving when it comes to problems, when it comes to emotional problems specifically. I'm going to do all those things playing with cars, but I could do all of these things playing with a house or with a marble run. I could do all these things playing with anything, probably a box. It doesn't matter what your toy is. What matters is how you interact with the child. That is my first tip. Make sure that you're following the interest of the child. Sometimes called following the child's lead. You're doing something that's fun for the child and you're making it more therapeutic in the process. My second tip is called playful obstruction. A lot of times we have to make things a little tricky in order to ensure that a child is going to try to communicate or that a certain emotion is going to come up that we need to teach the child how to deal with. In this case, since I know that my child just wants to be left alone to line all these cars up, what's going to happen is my child is lining up all these cars. I'm going to crash into one of her cars. This is a bad thing, of course, because we are disrupting her preferred activity just a little bit. Bad. Kids love a bad guy in their play. As they become a little more flexible, we can introduce the bad guy. We can have the postal worker look around. I know I'm supposed to be delivering the mail, but I feel like being naughty. I'm gonna crash. I need to crash into something. Here I come. And we can work with the child. That postal worker is gonna be naughty. He's gonna crash into your car. What could you do? Now, when the bad guy is being naughty verbally, out loud, what's happening is that I'm allowing the child I'm working with to see into the mind of the postal worker. She's able to see, he feels like being naughty. He's going to crash into my cars. What could I do? So we've introduced a problem into this paradise scenario, and now we're going to help the child brainstorm how to solve it. Once the postal worker's being naughty, we could model for the child, I feel angry. That postal worker's going to crash into my car. I need to think of something to do. Should I hit him? No, that's not good. I'm not supposed to hurt people. Maybe I could say, stop. That's a good idea. I think I'll do that. I think I'll say, and then we wait and see if the child says, stop. Now, perhaps the child doesn't repeat stop. So you can say it, stop, when the mail carrier is coming towards the car. but perhaps the mail carrier doesn't stop. Then we have to figure out what to do. And this is another situation where you can model appropriate problem solving with the child. You might say something like, "Oh no, this bad guy crashed into my car." Now we're problem solving from the child's perspective. So we're going to say my car instead of your car, even though it's the child's car. Okay. This postal carrier is super, super naughty. What should we do? Our car has a hole in it. I have a headache because it crashed into my car. And he doesn't even know that he did something bad. What should we do? Should we tell him he did something bad? Should I call the police? Should I say, "Hey, you put a hole in my car"? What should I do? Then we're going to give it a little moment. We're going to let the child think about it. There's a hole in the car. The bad guy's sitting right there. Maybe he's going. I'll turn him around so you can see his face. Maybe he's snickering because he's so proud of himself for doing such a naughty thing when he felt like being naughty. Let me tell you here that many children really like when somebody is super naughty on purpose in play, because it allows a child an opportunity to see consequences take place, and sometimes the child wants to be the bad guy. So a lot of times after we play this little scenario, we come up with a way to respond. A lot of times the child will say, "I'm calling the police." And then the police come and they say, "Hey, you crashed on purpose. That's a bad thing to do. You're going to jail." And then the police take the bad guy away. Usually I have a box of some kind. I'm just going to put this bad guy in the drawer. There. He's in the drawer. And then I set the timer for like 1 minute. And he has to stay in jail for 1 minute because he did a naughty thing. And that usually makes the child feel really happy. Then she goes back to lining up her toys, lining up her cars. However, she's watching out of the corner of her eye. And when the timer rings, she's super excited. And I say, "Do you want to let the bad guy out of jail now? His time is up." And so she does. And of course, what is the bad guy going to do? Well, if I don't make him be naughty again, usually the child will do it because she wants to have her opportunity to do naughty things in play and to explore being bad in a safe environment, knowing what the consequences will be. She will have to go to jail, or she in terms of her as the bad guy. It's really healthy for kids to play out the different people in the scenario, and it's really healthy to have an authority figure who can come in and rescue the child from feeling overwhelmed. Also, in this scenario, we played through different options of what the child could do. The child could just go up to the person and say, "That was a bad choice. You need to drive better next time." Whatever it is, whatever the options are that you come up with, the child could choose those. And the child could choose to call the police. That is okay too. So we're learning problem-solving opportunities. The child doesn't just come up and whack you because you crashed your car. Although this is my next hint. Hint number 3. Keep the child's frustration tolerance in your mind as we are playing, as we are doing things that might seem kind of irritating to the child. Okay, so I have crashed into her car. We've solved the problem. But when the timer goes off and our bad guy comes out of jail, my child her jaw might be clenched. She might have little fisty hands. She might be stiff. She might have wrinkles, and she might seem really upset still. She just needs to be left alone for a while to regain her equilibrium. And we can do that. And in fact, we should incorporate that process into our play. So I might, when the bad guy comes out of jail and gets back in his little mail van, I might station the police person right between the bad guy and my child's line of cars. And I might keep saying, don't crash. No crashing. Remember what happens when you crash. You have to go to jail. Make a good choice. Go deliver the mail. That's your job. So we continue to encourage the child by verbally telling the bad guy character what to do and not to make the bad choices. And what this means is, let's say that our child someday is in a situation where somebody is saying mean things to her or being a bit of a bully. Our child's going to be able to verbalize some of these same things. They're going to come to mind because it's a similar situation. She might be able to say, remember what happens when you say mean things. Or, when you say mean things to me, I can go tell the teacher, and that's not good. You don't want to have to miss recess or whatever the consequences are in school. All of these scenarios are helping children develop flexibility. Instead of just lining up cars, which is a fine activity, we are adding some social interaction, not only between us and the child, but between the characters involved in our story. And we are adding flexibility in dealing with things that happen emotionally. So the child's a little upset because her routine was disrupted. However, we're helping her calm down again, once again, with social, the policeman talking to the bad guy. This is a social thing that is helping the child to calm down. So we need to keep in mind how tense the child is, and if the child is showing those physical signs or is trying to escape. If the child went in the other room while all this was happening, you are no longer playing a game. You have chased the child away. And so we need to back way off and be less aggressive in how we interact with the child. Instead of having a car come out of nowhere and crash, we line our cars up too, but one of them accidentally slips down the hill and goes boonk and just hits the child just a little bit. And then we say, oh no, I'm so sorry. And then you can say, she says she's sorry. What should I do? Should I say, that's okay? Or should I say, that makes me mad. Please don't do it again. We can always offer the child opportunities, and we gear the way we play according to how the child is responding. My next tip number 4, is called scaffolding. Scaffolding is what happens when, for example, if you think of a scaffold is so that I, a smaller person, can paint something or fix something that's very high up. So the scaffold allows me to do things that I could not do on my own because I don't have the ability. And that's what we're doing with kids when we scaffold. I am the scaffold so that the child is able to do something she wouldn't normally do. And that is what's happening when I am doing a model. I wonder what I should do. Should I tell her that makes me mad, or should I call the police? That's a scaffold, because normally the child would just be upset and not know what to do. But when I give the child choices, when I model options for the child, then that makes it easier for the child to perform at a level that she otherwise wouldn't be able to, communicatively and on a social level too. My last tip, which you've already seen in my performance of this play scenario, is use characters to your benefit. In this case, I'm using a police person. I have a bad guy. There pretty much should always be a bad guy. And then, of course, the child has her character as well. I have a police person a bigger car, and I have a little police person also that I've used in the classroom when kids are doing something that we all know they shouldn't be. I'll have the police person say, "Hey, it's not okay to hit people. You might have to go to jail." And it becomes kind of playful. But the police person is the one giving the rules, not me. And that sometimes makes it more fun. You can also use puppets. That's really fun, just have a puppet. You can also use the police puppets as kind of a Jiminy Cricket conscience sort of coach for the child. So for example, perhaps we're playing this game. Perhaps there's an accidental crash. Accidental. Whoops, I'm so sorry. I crashed into you. Instead of simply thinking and modeling the options from your own mouth, you could have the police puppet pop up and say, "That's weird. She crashed into us. What should we do?" And kind of speak to the child as a coach, as a mentor who's helping the child manage her thoughts, her emotions, and figure out how to respond. We're giving the child a crisis in this play opportunity or any play scenario you're doing. You want to create a crisis, and then you want to help the child solve it. And we're hoping that the crisis that you create is one that the child would have trouble with in the real world, and that the skills that the child learns through the play environment translate to the world outside the play environment. So when you're teaching a child the self-advocacy skill of saying, "Stop crashing me," she's going to be able to use that skill on the playground. If someone gives her a push, she can say, "Stop pushing me." And it is easier because she has practiced it before in a safe environment. Also, she's practicing making the choice of how to respond to things that are unexpected or maybe even undesired. This is the plan for teaching targeted social emotional skills in play. I'm curious, what are some of the behaviors that you see in your child or in your students that you want to work on through play? Are you seeing running away? Are you seeing crying or hitting, making fun of other people? What skills would you like to work on in the coming days and weeks and months? Thanks for watching. Feel free to give me a thumbs up if you'd like. You could subscribe, but you don't have to. Either way, come back next time and we will talk some more about child development and child behavior. Have a great day. Bye.